How do we transcend the lower aspects of ourselves? How's everyone doing today? Hope you're all doing well. My name is Thomas, and welcome to my channel. I do educational videos on a number of topics. Right now, we're kind of right in the middle of the unit where we're introducing the various aspects of the tree of life. In particular, I'm doing the 144 kind of minor aspects of the tree. We're going to look at it from those 144 different lenses and give you an introduction to the tree of life, as well as looking at those minutiae. So what I'll be doing is kind of the first 2/3 of the video will be going through the introduction, and then in the last third we'll be answering this question, which refers to one of the 144 different aspects. Now, this here is the tree of life. You may also have seen this before. It's a diagram with 12 different categories, and this diagram goes back all the way to at least ancient Egypt. And then you may have also seen it as the Kabbalah, the Hebrew version, which is from a later period, but also ancient, and then also into the medieval and early modern periods. The Tree of Life is a great diagram that is kind of a map of our consciousness. I stumbled across the Tree of Life when somebody gave me a copy of the book Annotated, Volume 1, and that's Meter, capital Neter. And that book introduced me to the Tree of Life, and it didn't quite click right away. But after I kind of trudged through the book, it gradually started to kind of get into my memory. And once I got it committed to memory and really understood it, then I was really able to take off with the tree, because what it is it's kind of like an organizational system. And it gives you a map that you can kind of download into your consciousness, and it helps you to organize all the other stuff that's in your consciousness. So it's not really like a resource as much as a meta resource. So it helps you it helps you with all the other stuff that you've learned. Okay, it's not necessarily content itself, but it's a place to put your content. And I had been studying many different subjects that we'll be covering here on this channel in the future. And it just really helped me to organize all of those other subjects and to really understand them, put them in perspective, and to be able to recall them. So the tree is a mnemonic device, an elaborate mnemonic device, and an organizational structure that helps you with everything that you've been learning. It's got content in and of itself, but the content isn't as important as the organization that it provides you through this what you call a mnemonic device and an organizational structure. So now we'll try to figure out how each one of these 12 different categories works. You can see that there are 10 different circles or spheres that are numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then there is a thing here, which is an implied circle or sphere called the abyss. And then above the tree, there's a 0. So that's a total of 12 different categories. Each one of these categories, more or less, describes a faculty of consciousness. Or you might say an aspect of consciousness, or an ability of consciousness, or a potential of consciousness. So these are different areas that our our minds, in a general sense, can different modes that our minds can operate in, but we have to access them. And so we evolve up the tree, and we kind of access these things one at a time as we grow up. And we don't, most people don't make it too far, but if we kind of know what the model is, then we can help ourselves to to open to access all of these different aspects. And the what's also helpful about the tree is that it's kind of like it gives you helps you with your priorities, because each one as you open up is more important than the one before. Like, so the top of the tree is the most important, and this is the next most important, and so on. And so it helps you to prioritize your learning, and it helps you to prioritize your just your life in general. What's more important than what else? It's I wouldn't say quite important, because the 10th sphere, for example, is about our life force and our survival instinct. And obviously, if we don't have the 10th sphere open and we don't have our life force, then we're not going to be able to do much with any of the other ones. So it's not really adequate to say that this is the least important, but it's kind of like the last priority. I'm not sure how I would phrase it, but each one as you open up is, a higher priority. Okay, so like I said, the 10th sphere is our wild animal consciousness, survival of the fittest, kill or be killed, the state of nature, fight or flight response, also the automatic and involuntary functions of the body, like beating hearts and cleansing organs and digesting food, things that we don't think about but that we do, that enables us to stay alive. Okay, then when we move up to the 9th sphere is really like our domestic consciousness. This is what we get in the first few years of our lives when we're growing up. And we'll be talking about this today. When we're growing up, we access this heightened sense of receptivity, where we are in what you call a mediumistic trance, where we're soaking everything up like a sponge. Everything in life is fascinating to us, and we are observing everything in the first few years of our life in the home, the domesticated consciousness. And so we kind of like stare at our caregivers or whoever's around the house, and we watch what they do intently, and then we imitate what they do, and we practice that imitation until we get it right, which may take forever. Imagine just like learning to walk, how many times you fall down when you learn to walk, but you keep getting up and you keep trying until you can imitate, whoever you're learning the walking from. And you also then you memorize. So this is really where the fastest state of learning is involved: heightened receptivity, mediumistic trance, and then imitation, practice, and memorization. Okay, now when the 9th sphere is about our domestic consciousness, the 8th sphere is about the public consciousness, or the consensus worldview, the expert opinion, the establishment, the powers that be, and the institutions. And so this is what you get once you start going to school, once you start going to church, or to the recreational center, or whatever the lessons that you're taking, whatever it is, you go out and you expose yourself to the expert opinion, the people that you look up to, who are telling you kind of what you're supposed to believe in, how you're supposed to behave. They give you all of the conventional wisdom. And, it kind of depends on your upbringing, your ninth sphere, but, you know, you begin to recognize that what they're telling you to believe is not necessarily true. In fact, what they're telling you to believe is just what they want you to believe. And so this is a trickster. The eighth sphere is a trickster. It's not always telling you the truth. And so some people can manage to avoid that because it harmonizes with their own experiences. But some people not so much, because what they're being told that they're supposed to believe does not harmonize with what they've already experienced in their life. And so they have to use like a negative eighth sphere in order to be able to justify this. Now, the eighth sphere is really, like our belief systems as far as our faculties are concerned, our belief systems and our logical reasoning. But in order to kind of get into the eighth sphere at this point, because we all have to get into the eighth sphere because this is where all the resources are located. So at a certain level, we have to get in here at least to a minimal degree. We have to ignore our own experiences and, uplift what they're telling us. So that's called rationalization, when you provide excuses for, kind of convoluted thinking. And then there's also circular reasoning, which puts us in here as well. So we kind of have to use a negative eighth sphere to kind of go into the eighth sphere and remain there. If we use our actual eighth sphere, our logical reasoning, and our, belief systems, then we kind of end up recognizing that the eighth sphere is really just a temporary place, and that we evolve on. That's how people will end up getting stuck at the eighth sphere, is by operating the eighth sphere in the negative, by rationalization, circular reasoning, and faulty input into their reasoning and things like that. But if our reasoning faculty is working, we eventually will drift over to the seventh sphere, where the eighth sphere is the real world. The seventh sphere is our imaginary world. So people who drift over here are like, they were in the eighth sphere and they smelled a rat. They smelled rationalization. It wasn't, there was something wrong. And so they imagine a better way of doing the eighth sphere, whether that's just one part of it or whether it's the whole thing. It's their imagination, and that's one of our faculties of the seventh sphere, along with other things that help us here, including inspiration, having seen other people do similar things, intuition, being able to kind of be curious and wonder, and then to be able to go inside and get the answers to the questions that you pose with your curiosity. Also, our pleasure principle, being able to put things together into harmonious wholes, and our creative spark, being able to assemble things in novel manners. And so you use all these things to come up with alternatives to the eighth sphere. And these could be in creative media, such as paintings or photographs or poems or songs, or in inventions or other intellectual property. And so these things will provide a counterpoint for this eighth sphere. Now, if we continue to evolve further, which we can through inspiration again, because the inspiration gives us the impetus to go higher, even though it's only 1%. The other 99% is perspiration. And so this is a hard road here to take. But if we can get up to the sixth sphere, then this is our free will faculty. And we discover that we're already here anyway. But it appears that we're down here because the sixth sphere, our free will faculty, adds up to paying attention and making decisions. And we discover that we are here, but our attention is directed at really 8, 9, and 10. And so it appears that we're down here all the time, but we're really all the time we're here. But we're paying attention to this area. And so what we have to do at this stage is to use the other aspect of our free will, which is our ability to make decisions and decide to avert our attention from this matrix here of 8, 9, and 10, this comfort zone. This is how we grew up, and this is what we're comfortable, paying attention to. But if we take our free will and our decision-making ability and say, I'm going to turn my attention toward the higher aspects of the tree, toward my spiritual evolution, that's a very difficult thing. It requires courage, a lot of courage, because now we're staring into the unknown mostly, as opposed to into our comfort zone. But if we can do that, then that's a key aspect to our spiritual evolution. And then what we end up doing is applying our attention to the next sphere available, the fifth, which is our sense of justice. And our sense of justice, you could also call that karma. And that operates as you sow, so shall you reap. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What comes around goes around. And you can just think of it as like a mirror being here. You act and you get feedback. And the feedback is based on your act, and it's based on your violence, waste, and violation that are in your act. This is how the justice is meted out. So if you act violently, then you will get violence in return, and so on. So, but if you are paying attention, you will recognize that this is happening, and you will shore up your behavior. You will not like the violence you get in return, and so maybe next time you will not be so violent. And so this is how we can become more just, is by paying attention to our karma and using it as a teacher instead of like an enemy. Similar to the fourth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the law, the natural law or the natural order of things, the fourth sphere is about the articulation of that law through things like cosmologies and holy books, theories of everything, any kind of media that talks about everything under the sun, and attempts to, put all those things into order. And those things have been arrived at by, countless people over the generations, have all contributed to some of these holy books and so on. And, they have stood the test of time because they're based on observation and other, scientific things like investigation and measurement, experimentation, as opposed to the eighth sphere, which is based on fiat or decree. We say that, it is what it is because we say it is. But here, it is what it is because this is what we've observed over time, and this is the best explanation we have for it. And so, even though this is not perfect, and these things need to be adjusted over time with new findings, if we study enough cosmologies and then we use our intuition in order to kind of figure out how all of what we've studied harmonizes with our own experiences, we can come up with a very usable understanding of the natural law. Okay, now the abyss here is our psychic powers. This is really a magnetic kind of thing. This is based on omens or synchronicities or uncanninesses or coincidences, recurring themes and numbers. These things are treated like an external magnetic charge. And we have two parts of our psychic powers. The first is our psychic receptivity, which is just our ability to recognize the omen, to recognize that this is something important to be paying attention to. And then the second part is called psychic heat, and that's the ability to act upon the omen. When we recognize the omen, there will also be an implicit action that is prescribed by the omen. And so we have to take that action, but it's difficult because it causes us to put ourselves out there and to face the unknown again. And so it requires courage or heat, psychic heat, to act upon the omen. Okay, now the 3, 2, and 1 are above, at the top of the tree, and they correspond to our divine faculties within. 3 is omnipotence, all-powerful. 2 is omniscience, all-knowing. And 1 is omnipresence, all-present, all at once, eternally. We tap into this through sound synchronization. We tap into this through sight, being able to see all the way to the center of the transparent mind by being able to kind of stay off the content of our mind and to be able to continue to penetrate deeper and deeper into the calm mind. And what we see there is the image of the first sphere, which is our higher self that is within at our deepest center. And when if we're able to see that deep into the mind, that is wisdom. That's our ability to solve problems. But if we're able to actually be at that center, to merge with our higher self, then it is a unifying factor because we recognize that what is at our center is the same as what is at everybody else's center. Okay, then the first sphere above the tree is, or the zero sphere above the tree, above the first sphere, is really the mystery, and it is the nothingness of the universe. So it is what is not in the universe. It is part of the creator of the universe, but it is the part of the creator that is not in the universe. So it's associated with the creator, but not with the universe. So we only have indirect access to be able to understand it. So it is a mystery. Okay, now that is the background and the introduction to the 12 aspects of the tree. Now, to go to a deeper teaching on the tree, we go from 12 to 144. We basically do that by taking the 12 aspects of the tree and boiling down the whole tree to a miniature tree and applying it to each one of the 12 spheres. So 12 here, 12 here, 12 here, 12 here, and so on, for a total of 144 like minor aspects or fractal aspects of the tree. And each day as we go through this on this channel, we will be going through one of those 144 different fractal faculties, or what I refer to as stages of life, cosmology, history, and spirituality. And today we're looking at number 23. And the question was, how do we transcend the lower aspects of ourselves? And if we want to look, also, if you'd like to get a copy of just the list of the 144 fractal faculties, or called the guide to the 144 fractal faculties, just click the link in the description and I'll send you a free copy. Now, number 23 is what we're looking at today. That corresponds to the 9th sphere, and it corresponds to the first fractal of the 9th sphere. So the one inside of the 9. Okay, now remember the 9 is about our domestic consciousness, heightened receptivity, learning, memorization, imitation, and then the 0 or the 1 above the 1 within the 9th sphere is this is our higher self within, and this is omnipresence, all present, all at once, eternally, and this is the unifying factor. And usually when we're talking about the first fractal of a sphere, we're really talking about kind of like the essence of that sphere. So this is also kind of the essence of the 9th sphere. And this one, number 23, is called heightened receptivity. Stage number 23 is about using the state of trance to move beyond unwanted habits. Transcend behavior. A new leaf. Turn over. Trance for change. Trance is the means of accessing the unused portions of the brain, including the higher self. Trance is a funnel for attention. Trance traps the energy of another dimension, which are at right angles, orthogonal, like the heat of fusion or the heat of vaporization, a phase transition or a precession. Trance links up associated ideas and exposes contradictions that we have accepted in our behavior. Trance is an altered state for deprogramming and reprogramming ourselves. We must identify with the higher self, Oser in the ancient Egyptian, in trance. We must identify with the higher self in trance, and the higher self will establish itself in our everyday lives. Use this as a bridge to separate ourselves from the herd, to separate ourselves from our lower aspects. Trance shows us that the universe is nothing stable. The universe is illusion. It is impermanent and always changing. We're impermanent, a very slow standing wave of low frequency. And so we live in a universe made for transcending. And so we can eliminate our lower aspects. Trance is a threshold, just like the heat of fusion and heat of vaporization, a transition toward grace. Okay, that's number 23, the first fractal of the night sphere, heightened receptivity. And that is the way that we can transcend the lower aspects of ourselves through trance. Okay, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. And you can click the like button if you like the content. And you can also subscribe to the channel. You can share the video with others. You can click the link in the description to get a free copy of the 144 Fractal Faculties. And you can donate directly to me via Cash App or Venmo, listed in the description. Stay tuned for future videos in this series, starting tomorrow. We'll have a new one. And otherwise, have a beautiful day.